We're going to start this episode off on a little bit of a serious note. Did you know that 36 out of 50 governors will be elected this year? All 435 House seats and 35 Senate seats are up for election. There is an important midterm election happening Tuesday, November 6, 2018. Have you made a plan to vote? You can text VOTER to 26797 to find where your polling place is. The midterms matter. Will you make your voice heard? Text VOTER to 26797 and make a plan to vote on Tuesday, November 6, 2018. It is the podcast called What's Your Favorite Movie? It's the show that delights in motion picture conversations. Hey there, hi there, ho there, how are you doing? My name is Ed South, and I want to thank you for pointing your web browser to our little corner of the internet where we like to talk about movies. And if you happen to like what you hear in the next 30 to 40 minutes, by all means, go to your podcatching app, Facebook, iTunes, wherever it is you listen to us. Give us a thumbs up, a like. You can review us on iTunes, subscribe, whatever you do. It helps us out a lot. We'll talk about that in a little bit later. And also, don't forget, folks, the easiest way to listen to us now is on Spotify. We're on Spotify right next to Taylor Swift and whoever else the kids are listening to. You can just type in "What's your favorite movie?" or Ed South, and I'll be there talking movies with you. All right, our guest today in the studio is Matt Kaiser, who I'm going to be calling Matt 3, because you're our third Matt on the show, Matt. So you're going to be Matt 3 for the rest of the
Okay.
Now, you're Matt Kaiser. And Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself. You are a big comedy fan.
That's right.
And you've done you put together some comedy workshops. Tell us a little bit about that you've done in the Baltimore area.
Well, I started off doing comedy workshops for the Hussman Center for Adults with Autism. And then from there, I most recently did a workshop for itineraries in Baltimore. And then, currently, right now, I am doing a workshop for Howard County Parks.
So what does that exactly mean, comedy workshop? Like, workshop, you guys build furniture, or no?
It's a garden variety of things. Mostly, we do improv games. We take like regular generic scenes and do them in different styles. We've done clowning and done some funny things with props. It's just a whole bunch of different stuff.
All right. And tell me about, you said you were putting together a club called Kaleidoscope.
Yes. Yeah. Kaleidoscope is it's a forming organization. It's not official yet. But it'll be in Columbia, Maryland, that general area. And the lady that is the founder, her name is Beth Allen, and I'm working along with her to help get this organization off the ground. And
awesome.
Yes.
So, and we'll give everybody some information later on how they can contact you if they want to get more information about Kaleidoscope or anything else, or if they want you to come over and watch a movie with them.
Right.
It's all good. It's all good. So, so there's a little base. And Matt is obviously, with all this comedy workshop, a big fan of comedy. As you guys know, I am as well. So I'm excited about some of your list here. I'm excited about all your list, but one of my all-time favorites is on your list, and we'll get to that in a minute. But one thing I saw on social media over the last couple of weeks was this quote that I really liked that I wanted to share, because I feel like it's kind of a mission statement of our podcast, even though it is a quote from another podcaster. But she writes, "Movies make us happy. Movies make us sad. They represent moments in our lives, attach themselves to permanent memories. We love talking about them, watching them together, laughing, crying, experiencing catharsis. No one else can tell you how to feel about them. Movies are magic." And that was Jessie Malton, daughter of film critic Leonard Malton, and also co-host of the Malton on Movies podcast. So I just really liked that quote, because I like talking about movies, and movies are awesome. Movies are magic. Do you think so, Matt?
Absolutely.
And my favorite thing about movies is you can put in a movie from when you were a kid, and like I've said before, where you live changes, the climate changes, your socioeconomic status could change, your family, your friends. That movie is going to be exactly the same as it was when you came home from school in the 6th grade and watched Police Academy hit each other with billy clubs or whatever the case is. So Matt, tell us about you and movies. You go to the movies a lot? Do you go see a lot of movies?
Not as frequently as I used to. I don't go to the movie theaters,
right.
But I certainly watch movies when they pop up online, and Roku as a whole.
You were a fan of the old video store back in the days?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What's your main method of watching movies now?
Well, mostly through Roku.
Yeah. Like Netflix and
Amazon.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And what's a good one you've seen recently?
Okay. Well, one of them is Airplane.
Oh, okay. Is that on Is that on Netflix? It's on Amazon.
It might be on Netflix. It's
all right.
A possibility.
Well, you jumped right to the first movie on your list, which I'm excited about, Airplane. And you also mentioned its slightly lesser known sequel, Airplane 2, the sequel, from 1980 and 1982. Now, you and I are roughly the same age. I was born in 73.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought so. So I don't remember the first time I saw Airplane. Do you? Did you see this when you were a kid?
I probably saw it when it came out on video in the mid-'80s.
All right. Yeah, I have no recollection of when I first saw Airplane, but I do remember seeing Airplane 2 when it came out on HBO, so that was probably like 83. And I saw that first and absolutely fell in love with it. So for me, I kind of have a little bit of more of a connection to Airplane 2 than the first one, although when you watch the first one, you realize the second one stole 90% of the material. But
yes,
tell us why you love Airplane so much. Why is that at the top of your list?
It's just totally irrelevant, silly comedy. What you may or may not know is that Airplane was taken almost verbatim from a movie called Zero Hour.
Yes. Have you ever seen 0 Hour?
Yes, I have. I have that on DVD, and
awesome.
I felt like I was watching Airplane minus the jokes.
Yeah.
And
when you watch 0 Hour, do you remember what year that is? That's like 50-something.
Yeah, 50-something.
You realize that Airplane is legitimately a remake of 0 Hour.
Yes, absolutely.
With the jokes. Everyone thinks Airplane is it is kind of a spoof on Airport, the airport films. But at its heart, it's a remake of 0 Hour,
right.
Which is so much fun to watch because, you're just watching Airplane without the jokes, even down to what's some of the similarities. The names are all the same, and it's the fish and the chicken dinner or whatever.
Right, and the co-pilot also, in reality, was a former athlete.
Right, okay, yeah. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in Airplane.
Yeah, and I think the guy in 0 Hour was called Crazy Legs.
Okay,
Something like that.
Yeah, good call. So that's a neat. So in the sequel, right, or in the Airplane, they cast Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to kind of as a shout out to that. And I love Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and that has that stiff acting, which I love when sports people are in movies with their very, very stiff acting, whether they're a minor part like an Airplane or carrying a film like Space Jam. I enjoy some good stiff acting. I would say there is not a funnier movie on the planet than Airplane. I mean, jokes per minute, you're not going to find a funnier movie. Have you seen it in the theater? Did you ever get a chance to see it in the theater?
Never saw it in the theater.
Never saw it in the theater. This past summer, I got to see it on the big screen in a theater, an old-fashioned theater, and it was really cool because going to it, I assumed everybody would know it word for word, but you're actually sitting in a theater with people who have not seen it every year of their life for the last 10, 15 years. So
I have to ask, the scene where we were running out of coffee, how did that look on the big screen? Especially the part where some topless lady randomly enters the picture.
It's there. Yep, it's there.
I know it's there, but
it was there on the
screen.
It was there on the. They were both there on the big screen. And it's funny to watch a PG-rated movie and see full frontal, well, not full frontal, but nudity, straight up nudity, because now that would be an instant PG-13. But yes, little bit of nudity, and I always forget which one it is. And one of the two, Stryker is painting a portrait. I think in the first one he's painting a guy in a Jeep in an explosion, and then the camera pulls back and you see a guy in a Jeep with an explosion behind him. And the second one he's painting a nude, I think, and a camera pulls back and there's an actual nude woman.
Yeah, that was in part 2.
In part 2, right? So do you like Airplane and Airplane 2 the same, or one above the other, or just...
I think I like them about the same. Part 2 definitely has some really, ingenious gags in it. What you may you would definitely notice, but one 2B game show host and one at the time, I guess, I don't think he was doing anything at the time. Well,
we didn't mention your love of game shows yet,
right.
So for those of you out there, and we're going to get to that.
Pat Sajak is in Airplane 2.
Right, as the news reporter.
And Art Fleming has a cameo.
You're putting yourself and everyone else on that ship in jeopardy. I'll take airplane disasters for 200. The answer is the Mayflower. I recorded Airplane 2 on audio cassette when I was like 10 years old and would listen to it incessantly before VCRs. So anything like that scene right there, I mean, I'm doing that beat for beat. You're putting yourself and everyone else on that ship in jeopardy. And then they cut to Art Fleming hosting Jeopardy, yes. Which when I was 10, I had no idea what that meant. But you probably did.
Yeah.
What else you want to say about Airplane, Matt? Just the best. It's just funny.
Yeah.
And Airplane 2, the sequel. So there's this little gap in the early 80s. I guess it was, my son and I were discussing this. Sequels weren't really a thing in movies. I mean, there had been a few follow-ups and continuations, but it seems, if you're looking at a map, Godfather 2 was the first sequel with the number in it that started the flow of sequels, and then you got Rocky and of course Star Wars. But there's this little collection of sequels like Airplane 2 that really don't have a whole lot creatively to do with the original. The guys that worked on Airplane did not write or direct or have anything to do with the second one. Same cast, but it reminds me of like Grease 2, which is very derivative of the first Grease, or Psycho 2, which I just saw. And there's a couple others. They're just these sequels that don't really have a whole lot to do with the first one. Do you think? So I know you're also a fan of classic comedy, like going back to the 30s, 40s, 40s, 50s. I think Airplane and movies like it kind of hit that soft spot for people who like classic comedy. Like it's just it's kind of like funny to be funny. Like it's not mean-spirited. It's not, I mean, sometimes it's vulgar, sometimes it's off color, but it's never mean-spirited. It's just funny to be funny. And then, so how did you get into like classic comedy? Like I love all that old stuff too. Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy. How do people in their 40s get into that? Did your parents introduce you to that stuff?
My dad used to watch Laurel and Hardy and Abbott and Costello and stuff, when I was much younger, probably,
I can remember
elementary school days.
That's cool. I can remember Laurel and Hardy being like in some kind of syndicated package on Channel 2 in Baltimore, and it was on before The Muppet Show. And I would always love watching it. But my parents would get mad at me, like, why are you watching this black and white crap or whatever? But I loved it.
Right.
So, and you had said you'd seen most of the Abbott and Costello and Laurel and Hardy movies?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Really? Do you think you've seen all of them, or?
There's probably a few silent Laurel and Hardys I haven't seen. But,
the shorts,
Yeah, but pretty much I've seen, I guess, all of the Abbott and Costellos.
Nice. Do you have a favorite offhand? Do you know which one's your favorite?
Of the Laurel and Hardy?
Or Abbott and Costello, both, yeah.
Laurel and Hardy, it's a tie between probably Way Out West and The Music Box.
Yes, The Music Box is awesome. Is Way Out West the one with the little dance number in it? Or
That's right.
Is that Sons of the Desert? I know. And then Abbott and Costello. Everyone says Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is the best. I highly disagree with that.
It's not
bad.
Bad for what it is. But if I were to, I think there was one. I may not have the exact title, but I think there was an Abbott and Costello called time of their lives.
Yes, yeah. Were they the ghosts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one was really well done.
Yeah,
I
that's
thought.
very kind of like a movie that they just happen to be in. It's not quite an Abbott and Costello movie, quote unquote.
Right. You don't really see the classic routines, and they don't appear in every scene together.
Right. Yeah,
but it's a really well done movie.
It's a cool one. My favorite is definitely Buck Privates, which I think you get the most Abbott and Costello. Because Abbott and Costello, for those of you that don't know, were a stage team beforehand. Were they in vaudeville?
Yes, they were.
Yeah. So they brought some of their acts to their movies. So something like Buck Privates is full of their little bits in the... Isn't that where the dice game is? They have like a dice game, and it's always who's the I can't Lou's the chubby guy,
right?
Costello's the bigger one.
Yeah,
Matt. Yeah, Costello's always like, you got 4 and 4, right? Yeah. Now you got 2. Yeah. Now there's none. What? Like that's the basic.
And Lou Costello actually had to purposely talk a couple octaves higher because when they first started off in radio, people were complaining they couldn't tell the difference between
Oh, wow.
them. Yes.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's cool. Yeah. So then he was stuck with it when they got to movies. He had to do
exactly.
that.
Yep.
And then there's a Laurel and Hardy. Is it Laurel and Hardy? There's a movie coming out, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's I can't wait to see it. I think it's called Stan and Ollie.
Yeah.
And the actors' names are slipping my mind right now.
John C. Reilly is Ollie.
Right. And I can't remember who's playing Stan.
British guy. Steve Coogan?
I think that sounds right.
And that's coming out in
later,
after Christmas. And it's not a documentary. It's a docudrama about Laurel and Hardy, as opposed to the. Did you ever see the mid-90s?
Oh yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Where they tried to
the New Adventures.
Yes.
Bronson Pinchot was fantastic as Laurel.
Yeah.
As Stan, and I guess
Gaylord Sartain from the Ernest films was the.
He was. The casting was decent. The story was just not there.
Right. Let's move on down your list here to a movie some people may not. Everyone's seen Airplane, and if you haven't seen Airplane, by God's sake, go watch it now. I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon, or all you got to do is search your DVR, and it'll come up on some channel this weekend, I'm sure. Real Men, 1987. This is one that fell through the cracks. Jim Belushi and John Ritter. Give us a little quick synopsis of what happens in Real Men.
Well, basically, Jim Belushi plays some big time agent, and he is
like a FBI agent.
FBI agent,
right?
And John Ritter plays like this regular average guy who somehow ends up in this whole mess with him,
which often happens in film.
Right, it's a totally farcical film, and I mean, in the beginning, you're kind of like, wait a minute, how did these two really get together? So they made that a little bit muddy, but once you get past that, it's just a total farce of a movie, kind of sort of making fun of that genre.
Right, of cop movies. And it definitely is a great vehicle for John Ritter. It lets John Ritter be John Ritter.
Absolutely.
I saw this when it came out, 87, so like 30 years ago. I do not remember anything of it, except there's aliens involved somehow, I think. Right. I did watch the trailer the other night on YouTube, and none of it jarred my memory whatsoever. The whole movie is on YouTube, though, so if anybody wants to watch it, and it was a good quality copy of it, too, unlike most movies on YouTube, which look horrible. But
yeah, and I think you can also watch it for free on... Well, if you have a Roku, you can go through Vudu, which is VUDU.
Right.
And you can watch it for free if you don't mind ads popping up every now and then.
Yeah, the same Taco Bell commercial every 15 minutes.
Right, exactly.
Yes, I'm familiar with the Roku. So, yeah, do you remember when you probably saw this either on HBO or on video back in the day?
It came out in video, yeah. I think I remember watching it from my dad's house back when he lived in Noella.
I mean, when we were 87, so we were 12, 13.
Yeah,
Jim
roughly.
Belushi and John Ritter in a funny cop movie we're in. I mean, that was our soft spot right there. And I was watching it thinking of John Ritter. A couple of shows ago, we did an episode here about... movie star or TV stars that tried to be movie stars. And although John Ritter was never a huge movie star, he was pretty prolific in film and did quite a few films, some popular ones. and he could kind of bounce back and forth between TV and movie. I'm thinking of the Problem Child movies were some of his last
I
ones.
never saw any of those.
And Skin Deep, he did a Blake Edwards film called Skin Deep that was really good. We all miss John Ritter.
Yes.
All miss him. Yeah, and Real Men kind of fell through the crack. Like, you hardly hear anyone talk about it anymore. But it is readily available. Opened on 150 screens, only grossed $874,000.
Oh.
But I do remember watching it when it came to HBO. I also remembered the cover art in my head before I saw it online. The poster of Belushi and Ritter being crushed by the words "Real Men." So. Real Men, folks, go out and find it. Hey, we're going to take a quick break to remind you about our social media platforms. That's not the right way to say it, but hey, you can find us on Twitter at WYF Movie Podcast, and you should subscribe, and you'll always get an update on when we have a new episode, and we'll put some visual aids up there from time to time and other fun movie stuff. You can also check us out on Facebook. Just type in what's your favorite movie and it'll pop up. You'll always get a notification of a new episode, and you can play it right from your phone, right off the Facebook page. If you're so inclined, you can go to Instagram and share our stupid Instagram things to your friends. It would be great. And our email at favemoviepodcast@yahoo.com. Folks, it's a interactive medium. It's social media. It's a two-way street. So we need to hear from you because we have numbers. People are downloading the show. People are supposedly listening, but no one's talking to us, giving us any feedback. So if you hear the sound of my voice, go to Twitter, Facebook, email, whatever, and just like the show, or just a little, hey, it was good, or hey, Ed, you suck. That's fine too. We'll take that. Don't say Matt sucks. It'll hurt his feelings. He's just a guest, so be nice. And if you have the iTunes, you can go on there. You can rate the show, give us some stars. You can subscribe to the show. That'll put the show right in your phone whenever it comes out. Or even leave us a quick review. All those things help bring our show up higher in the listing. So if someone's looking for a podcast on Airplane, we might be higher up there than some of the bigger shows. So please do all those things. And as always, you can find us on iTunes, Spreaker, SoundCloud, and Spotify. It's amazing, isn't it, Matt?
Yes.
So many places to find us. So we talked a little earlier about your love of game shows also. How did you get into game shows? That's just I don't mean to, whatever. It's just, that's an odd thing. Like, there's not a lot of, there's not a lot of people into game shows, but then once the internet came around, you found out that there were a lot of people into game shows, just like me and my obsession with Disney World. Now, I can talk to lots of people obsessed with Disney World, but how does a love of game shows start?
Well, my mom used to watch game shows in the morning all the time. I guess back in the days when I was
shout out to Ms. Linda.
Yes, she would watch Password Plus,
nice,
and then an obscure game show that only you and I would know of because you were a contestant on it. Whew, WHEW
on a homemade version, not the 1970s
right.
NBC
and The Price
version.
Is Right.
Yeah,
all sorts. And from there, I got hooked. I just basically started watching virtually any game show that came on the air.
Anybody our age remembers that. When we were younger, all three networks ran game shows all morning. They all had brand new game shows. Card Sharks, Deal of the Century, all those.
Yeah, Sale of the Century.
Sale of the Century, yes.
1975 was definitely the year because there were more game shows on that year than any year at all.
And I probably told you this before, but my very first word when I was a little teeny tiny baby was jackpot.
Was it? Okay.
From, I guess there was a game show called Jackpot?
There was.
Yes,
yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
I do not remember that. I remember watching Joker's Wild was my favorite when I was little.
Oh, yeah, Joker's Wild is fantastic. And did you ever see the Snoop Dogg version?
I have. It's not too bad. He does a good job.
I wish they didn't do the drug references. I mean, without the drug references, I think it would be fine.
Without the drug references, the show would be about 4 minutes long. So.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I know you liked game shows. This is a show about movies, so I found a few instances where game shows and movies intersect.
Okay.
We're talking about game show hosts in movies. We're maybe talking about movies about game shows or movies with fake game shows in it.
Okay.
I bet you can get all 7 of these. I got 7 of them for you in a little patented. We used to call it WIFM Pyramid. even though it has nothing to do with the pyramid, but
Right.
I just picked the 7. So you ready? And
Ready.
folks, by all means, please play at home. And we'll see how many of these you can get. So some of these are real movies, some of these are fake game shows. And we got a little music. You ready?
Ready.
All right. Whoops, where's my music? There we go.
There
All
we
right.
go.
All right. Bob Barker hosted The Price is Right from... Some of these you're going to know before I even get to the question.
Right, exactly.
Price is Right from 72 to 2015. He has one movie credit to his name where he manages to get punched in the face by Adam Sandler in this 1996 semi-classic.
That'd be Happy Gilmore.
That is correct, yes. Robert Redford directed this 1994 historical drama about the real-life scandal involving the show 21.
That was Quiz Show.
That is correct. A teen reflects on his poor upbringing when he is accused of cheating on the Indian version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in this 2008 Best Picture winner.
Oh boy, that's Millionaire.
So close.
Millionaire.
He grew up in the slums.
Slumdog Millionaire. Okay.
There you go. Judges, we'll give it to him. Yes. All right. You only get that one if you can get this one.
Okay.
In National Lampoon's European Vacation, Clark Griswold and his family went an all-expense-paid trip to Europe on what fictional game show?
Pig in the Poke.
There you go. Hosted by?
Well, the actor was John Astin.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't remember his name.
Kent Winkdale was his character.
Excellent. Bonus point. Family Feud's Richard Dawson hosts a game show, which is actually a public execution in disguise in this 1987 film based on a Stephen King novel.
I just had it in my head and it slipped right out. That was,
We're going to have to put 10 seconds on the clock.
yeah, that was, something man.
You got it. The Running Man.
The Running Man.
We're going to give it to him. All right. Yeah. Veteran character actor Philip Baker Hall plays Jimmy Gator, the host of the popular game show What Do Kids Know? In this 1999 drama, clocking in at over 3 hours and also starring Tom Cruise and Philip Seymour Hoffman.
That one I do not know.
I had a feeling I might get you on that one. No idea?
No idea.
Magnolia.
Oh, okay.
I do not watch 3-hour movies, so
right.
But that one was courtesy of my son. He likes that movie.
Yeah.
And finally, on what game show from a 1989 cult classic comedy can contestants win his or her own weight in Red Snapper?
Probably Remote Control.
No, from the movie.
Oh, the movie. Oh. That was the UHF.
Yes, what was the game show?
The game show was Wheel of Fish.
Wheel of Fish, all right, yes.
Remote Control would do something like that, though.
That is true. So you got 6 out of 7, but we gave you the 1+, so that's a 7 out of 7 right there. That's an impressive showing, Matt.
I can't believe Running Man. I mean, I had the title of the...
He was so good in Running Man, too. Richard Dawson.
Yeah.
He hosted the original host of Family Feud, right?
Right.
And he was actually an actor before Family Feud, and he had a couple of older movie credits, but not a whole lot. He was on The Love Boat.
Right.
A lot of game show hosts on The Love Boat, weren't they?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's it. Those are good times. Good times. Matt Kaiser, 7 out of 7 on the WIFM pyramid. That might be an all-time, fittingly so, an all-time record here on the program, but.
Right.
But I cheated because I gave you the extra point. But anyway, let's get back to your list of movies. We're having so much fun goofing around. Here's one that no one's ever heard of. Bigger Than the Sky from 2005.
Uh-huh.
Tell us about Bigger Than the Sky that I had never heard of. But
okay. Bigger Than the Sky is about an average, everyday guy who decides to try out for the community play. And this play that the community theater is doing is Cyrano de Bergerac. And he has absolutely no prior acting experience whatsoever. And gives the absolute world's worst audition. But despite that, he gets cast in the lead as Cyrano.
All right.
And so throughout the movie, he is trying to fit in with the acting world, and these actors are all very supportive of him, despite his obvious lack of experience. And as the movie progresses, he gets better and better. but at one point he decides to quit, and so the director hires this guy who's like some big diva, some big method actor who ends up being more of a pain in the neck. And and the other thing, you also get a little bit of insight on the director character when you find out that she get some idea of why she casted a actor with no experience playing Cyrano, is that she wanted Cyrano without the big nose.
All right.
So Patty Duke is in it. Sean Astin is in it.
Love me some Patty Duke.
Yes.
So it kind of looked like from the trailer. So this was a little hard to find movie. Looks like some of the storyline kind of parallels the storyline of Cyrano. Like he's trying to woo a girl. Mm-hmm. So there's a little bit of that involved, and they're telling him what to say.
Yeah.
Just like Cyrano de Bergerac or Roxanne, as most of us know it as.
Right. And I can sort of relate it to real life because when I was first starting as a student at Towson University, I was kind of green in the acting world, and everyone else probably had been acting since they were 3.
Okay.
And so trying to fit in with people that were much more experienced than me, I mean, I was very fortunate to have the experience I did, and I sort of transitioned from acting classes to comedy. There was a techniques in comedy class, which was how I sort of fell in love and decided to do it as a quote-unquote career.
Right.
And so once I took the comedy class, I just absolutely knew what I wanted to do from there.
Well, that's good that you had a positive experience, because actors, especially on the not lower level, but the starting out, actors can be a little difficult to work with. I found many unpleasant exchanges in my earlier career. Again, in air quotes. We're using a lot of air quotes when we say career, folks. But actors are not my good buddy Kevin, but yeah. So it's good that you had a good experience. This movie kind of you said you can relate to it because it reminded you of your experience a little bit and trying something new out. And, a mixture of people with experience and people without experience. So this movie's from 2005. John Corbett is in it, who you guys might know from Sex and the City. He's also in a new movie called To All the Boys I Loved Before, which is on Netflix. Amy Smart is the female lead. I like her. She's nice. She was in Road Trip and Rat Race. Did you mention Sean Astin? You said Sean Astin.
I did.
Sean Astin from Goonies and Lord of the Rings. And the indelible, is that the right word? Patty Duke. Loves me some Patty Duke from the Patty Duke Show. She was, what was her name on Patty Duke Show? Kathy and Patty?
That's right.
Lane. That's a good show. So Bigger in the Sky. You might have a little trouble finding it. I think you can rent it on Amazon. And it's got a 6.1 on IMDb, but a Metascore of 21. So who knows? How'd you come across this movie? Like I don't think this had a theatrical release. How did you stumble upon it?
I think my dad happened to see it.
Oh, okay.
And said, yeah, Matt should see this movie. And I happened to find it at the video store when there were video stores.
Right.
And rented it out, and I enjoyed it.
Nice. Yeah, when you used to want to see a movie, you go to the video store. Maybe you had to go to 1 or 2 or 3. Now, if it's like not on Amazon or iTunes or Netflix, you're kind of screwed. Your dad seemed, and shout out to your dad, Dr. Kaiser.
Yes.
Your dad seems like the kind of guy who will just pick up a movie off a shelf and just watch it and be
he has a pretty eclectic taste.
Nice. This movie was directed by a guy named Al Corley, best known for a season on Dynasty. So I like those little notes right there.
Okay.
So, all right. So we're coming into the home stretch here. 2 more movies, both from 86. So we were like in the 7th or 8th grade when these came out. And these are 2 movies that every 7th or 8th grader has seen multiple times. And we'll lump them together a little bit. Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Right.
And Short Circuit. Classics.
Absolutely.
Let's go to Ferris Bueller real quick. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 1986. What do you love about that still? It still holds up. It's a great film.
Yes. It's just one of those, I guess at the time, I was like 13, or I guess it was around 13.
Like 13.
And so, someone of that age to fantasize about what if I had an entire day off at school and could get away with doing whatever I wanted.
And this movie works, not that I need to tell anybody this, but it still works to this day for us who grew up with it, because now you take school and put work in there, just like blowing off work for the day and telling your boss to stick it and whatever the case is. Driving around in a fancy car.
And the setting is also very appealing to me because it takes place in Chicago, and you see a lot of establishing...
Well, this is a John Hughes film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of
Chicago
John Hughes
is his muse.
Mm-hmm, that's right. Yeah, a lot of his movies take place there. And going as far back as like 2011, I actually made several summer trips to Chicago to take improv classes at Second City.
That's awesome.
So I got to see a good majority of the city of Chicago.
Yeah.
Take the awesome L train, and the buses aren't that bad either, but the L train, that's something to experience.
And who are some of the for those of you that don't know, Second City improv theater, comedy club kind of thing, where it's one of the incubators of American comedy. Half of Saturday Night Live came from Second City, Chicago specifically. Who were some of the graduates from Chicago? Do you know?
Chevy Chase, nice. John Belushi, Gilda, Dan,
Danny.
Dan Aykroyd.
If you're in the business, you can call him Danny.
Right, Danny Aykroyd.
And some Today people, too, not just the almost entire original cast of Saturday Night Live. But yeah, that's awesome. Did you get to meet anybody famous or semi-famous?
Not really, no.
Just pictures all over the wall?
There were pictures all over the walls, yes. Not necessarily recent ones.
Right. I got to take my son to see this, his first time seeing it. We saw at the Senator Theater in Baltimore, one of the nice, big, fancy, old-fashioned screen in 35 millimeter, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And he really likes that movie too. It's just it's a timeless film that lives on. So yeah, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and I was having a conversation with somebody the other day about. Well, I was watching Elvira the other night. It's Halloween time, so I was watching the Elvira movie. Have you ever seen that?
Never.
That's a classic, Matt. It's a classic. Okay. Edie McClurg, who I think is Edie McClurg's not from Second City. She's from The Groundlings, I think. Mm-hmm. But Edie McClurg plays the secretary in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yes.
Grace. And we were discussing what that might be her best performance if you're familiar with Edie McClurg. I think most people just see her and go, oh, it's Ferris Bueller's secretary. But she's also in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles at the rental counter. And she's in Elvira, and she's so good in Elvira. It's like a perfect part for her. And what 2 TV shows was she on, Matt? Do you remember?
Well, the Hogan Family / Valerie was one of them.
/ Valerie's Family, yeah. Mrs. Poole.
Oh, yeah, I just remember the other one, Small Wonder.
That's it, yep. Yeah. Small Wonder, she was the neighbor. Valerie's Family just kind of stole her from Small Wonder and made her the exact same character, but she lived next door to Valerie / Valerie's Family / the Hogan Family. And then we have short, and of course, folks, if you haven't seen Ferris Bueller's, what are you even doing listening to a podcast? Go get a DVD of Ferris Bueller. Short Circuit, 1986 also. I have not seen this in a long, long time, but I do remember watching it ad nauseum when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It is about a robot.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, what's it about? It's about a robot, and he's wacky.
Well, it's a robot that thinks that he's alive.
Right.
And
he needs input.
And Nova, who is this big robotic organization, is assuming that he's malfunctioning, and who knows what havoc he could,
Right. I think the most important part is he watches TV for 10 minutes and learns how to speak, and speaks only in TV quotes, and he falls in love with Ali Sheedy.
Uh-huh.
And then you got Steve Guttenberg at the height of his career, talking to the robot.
My all-time favorite line in that movie was, the scene where number 5 catches Ali Sheedy in the bathtub. It's like, ooh, change color.
Oh yeah,
nice software.
just dirty enough for us 12-year-olds to appreciate. Yes. Man, I got to watch that. I have not seen it in so long, but we used to watch that over and over and over again. And then when you look back on it now, almost 30 years later or whatever, kind of the main character, even though, I guess Ali Sheedy and Steve Guttenberg, but Fisher Stevens plays like what
some Indian foreign guy,
some scientist, right? And then we were all surprised many years later to find out that he's actually not Indian at all. He's just a white dude, right? Mm-hmm. And now that's not quite okay. So it's a little unfortunate watching it now because it's just played for stupid laughs, and it's just such an exaggerated, idiotic accent, but not okay. And I heard they were working on a new one, and he was going to be in it, but I would imagine he's not doing that accent anymore. Just think Apu times like 7 if you haven't seen it, and that's pretty much what it is. But just kind of unfortunate to rain on Johnny Five's parade. He's the robot, Johnny Five.
Yes,
looks a lot like Wall-E.
He does.
And then 2 years later, they made a Short Circuit 2. Not as revered as Airplane 2 is to Airplane.
Right.
I don't remember anything about Short Circuit 2 except he gets beat up in an alley, and I cried. And I was, 80? I was like 15, and I cried at a robot getting beat up. But que sera, Johnny Five gets beat up, and like battery acid comes out like blood.
Yeah.
It's very traumatic. I'm still talking about it 30 years later.
Yes.
That seems to pop up on TV once in a while, but
Yes.
Fisher Stevens is still doing his shtick there. So, directed by a guy named John Badham, who directed Saturday Night Fever. Mm-hmm. So he had a career. And War Games. Remember War Games? That was another big movie of our time. Bird on a Wire, Stakeout, Drop Zone, etc., etc., etc. And it was filmed in the same Oregon town as Goonies and Kindergarten Cop.
Oh.
I did not know that.
Right.
So that's, it just, the only line I remember from that is Fisher Stevens saying, like, "Hi, honey, I'm home," or something like that. "Hi, honey, I'm home," in that horrible accent and whatever. So, When's the last time you've seen Short Circuit? Anytime recently?
It's been maybe about a year or two, but I've noticed it pop up on the various Roku channels, both of them, both Short Circuit 1 and 2. So you're bound to find it, if you have a Roku.
So Matt brings to the table a list of fine American motion pictures that you should get your hands on if you have not seen. The classic Airplane, ! Airplane 2, the sequel. Real Men, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Short Circuit, and Bigger Than the Sky are Matt's list of favorite movies when I ask, what's your favorite movie? Matt, thanks so much for joining us here on the show. I hope you had a good time.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for making the drive up to the remote What's Your Favorite Movie Studios located at a secret location. Folks, I need you to share this show. If you're listening to the sound of my voice, hit a share icon somewhere on your device and put this on your Facebook or your social media. If you're friends with Matt, say, hey, listen to Matt on this show. If you're just a fan of mine, I appreciate it. Do the same. Give us a shout out at favemoviepodcast@yahoo.com. Matt, where can people find you online if they want to get information about Kaleidoscope or any of the workshops you're doing if they're in the Baltimore area?
Well, you can email me at comedianmattkaiser@gmail.com.
comedianmattkaiser@gmail.com. All one word.
Right. And also I'm online at www.matt-kaiser.format.com. And you'll see all my comedy stuff, past footage from previous
there's
work.
videos and stuff.
Oh, yes.
So is there a video of the game show we did 20 years ago?
No, but I might
That's on
put
YouTube,
it up.
right?
It's on YouTube, though,
I'll link to that on the on our Twitter so you guys can see the video of a game show we did for your birthday
not just Few, but also Match Game.
Match Game, yes.
Match Game's up there, too.
And I was hilarious in Match Game. And I was sitting in Richard Dawson's seat. Am I not correct?
You're right.
An honor indeed. When I did radio back in college, I used to end my show with the phrase, "Drive safely and don't forget to vote." When I started this podcast, I decided not to use that line because it felt like I was being a little too political. That was early 2016, and now here in 2018, I will get a little political and say, please, don't forget to vote November 6th. Until then, it's khaki wishes and cookie dreams. So long, everybody.